Welcome back to Live with No Excuses, where we are sharing stories of amazing people that have extraordinary experiences and lives. And I am super excited about Evan Rigirio. Did I say it right? All right, Evan Ruggiero.
Yeah, Ruggiero.
Ruggiero.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, before we jump into Evan, he is an actor, a singer, and a one-legged tap dancer. Like that, I know. You will get into it. Evan, thank you so much
Oh,
for
thank
coming
you.
on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm super
Um,
excited.
yeah, no, I'll tell you what. So I started this podcast and, trying to find people with incredible stories. And my producer was like, have you seen this one-legged tap dancer? And, being an amputee, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
let me see, before we start reaching out to people. And then, holy crap, dude. And I'll tell you, I watched a video of not only can you tap dance, like, you can act, you can sing, but you did Dream On where you
Oh.
tap dance. And then I was like, oh my God, and the dude can sing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I started dancing as a kid when I had two legs and I just got into it. I was in a hip hop class that I signed up for. My sister was taking dance and I thought it was just a really cool thing. And I was real bad at hip hop, but I got into tap dancing and that's where
Yeah.
it clicked. So got into a professional company by age 10, fell in love with this new art form. Like so I started out in what's called like Broadway tap with like your big kind of arms and everything like that. And then I got
Yep.
into more of like the rhythm tap, which is hoofing, where it's like really creating music. I was working with live musicians at a young age. I play a bunch of instruments too, guitar, drums, piano. I was singing at the time as well. And so everything just kind of just clicked, like no pun
Yeah.
intended, like, but I was just like so immersed in the world of the arts that I had decided when I was in high school, I was like, wow, what am I gonna do with the rest of my life? And all my friends were going off to school for like science, and some wanted to be doctors and teachers, and I was like, I don't know, like I just like to sing, dance, and act, and wound up going to school for musical theater, and that's kind of where my life turned upside down.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like the coolest option to have. Like, I
Right?
love music, but I
Yeah.
don't play any instruments. I'm very like my oldest son taught himself how to play the guitar. You
Okay.
know what I mean? He's just got that gift. And I've always wanted it. So the fact you're like, they're going to be doctors or whatever, and all I could do was what? Do everything that we're jealous of.
It was like it just kind of like I remember like telling my parents and my friends when I wanted to grow up that I wanted to be a rock star. And they were like, okay, well, like, what else do you want to do? Like, what's your plan B? I was like, I don't have a plan B. Like, that's just,
This is it. I'm either a rock star or I'm not.
yeah. And I was in a bunch of different bands in high school as well, different rock bands, playing usually like some like 70s hard rock and 80s hard rock. And then got big into, yeah, like big into marching band and drumline and all that. So I was always just like trying to be like super music forward and dance forward and also being on stage. So that was just growing up for me. I mean, and I played some sports growing up. I was into soccer a little bit, but I quit because the socks felt funny. Uh, it felt, yeah, like, I know this isn't gonna last. Then I was also into baseball because my dad played baseball, and I was in little league, and I was out in center field. And, they were they were like they weren't putting like best players out in center field, and there were like too many balls that were coming out there. So, but one day this one ball comes out high fly. I'm like, oh, this is my opportunity, and I go and I'm like, I'm gonna catch this ball, and I gotta jump to catch it. But what I do is I did a tour jeté, which is a ballet move where like you jump up, you kick one leg forward, you spin around, and you land on the opposite leg, like on
Yeah.
one leg. And I caught the ball while doing that. And of course, like the stands just erupt, and the guy next to my dad goes, "Oh my God, it looks like that guy out there is doing ballet." And my dad turned to him and he said, "That's my son, and he does." And that was the
And he
last year.
does.
That was the last year I played baseball. That was,
Well, I mean, you had, I was, look, when I played Little League for a short time,
yeah.
they stuck me out in the outfield too. Um, but I wasn't able to dance. They just kept me out there. And I was that kid. I was that kid that was like, I hope they don't hit the ball to me. I hope they don't hit the ball to me.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, it would come out. But I stopped baseball shortly after that. I was like, it's
Well,
not.
now, how many styles of dance at a young age? What all were you doing? Like you said, you enjoyed tap. You
Yeah,
did some hip hop, and then you did some ballet.
yeah. I did some tap, some hip hop, some jazz, some ballet. I did like pantomiming too, which was pretty theatrical. But I also competed, and so there were a lot of different types
What is
of
pantomiming?
pantomime is like it's kind of like the joke version of musical theater in a way where like you'll play a song and then you'll just mime it in a way like
Oh, okay.
you know
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was doing stuff like that, but I was also doing musical theater on stage at the time, so it just felt very natural to to do that style and compete with it. Because I grew up doing a bunch of competition dances, and so that was just another thing to do when I went to these competitions. So, but yeah, I
Now,
was doing all different kinds of dance.
so how old were you
Hmm.
when everything took a turn? You got cancer.
Yeah, I was 19 years old. I was a sophomore in college. I was at Montclair State University in New Jersey, and I woke up one morning with a pain in my right leg, and I thought I had just heard it from being in a dance class.
Dancing. Yeah.
And I had an X-ray taken, and that doctor said he wants me to go to Sloan Kettering in New York City to meet with a specialist, where where he wants this other specialist to check it out. And so the specialist in New York checks it out, and immediately he said, "All right, we got to do a biopsy tomorrow." And I said to this doctor, I was like, "Yeah, but I'm in a musical right now. Like I got opening night tonight. Like I
Yeah.
gotta be back." And so he let me do opening night, and then I was in within 2 days for a biopsy, and that's when I was told that I was being diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. And so it was just surgery after surgery after surgery, and I was told I was cancer free. And now it's going into the new year, and I was diagnosed in 2009. Now we're going into 2010, and I was good. Had a couple surgeries here and there between January and May. And in May, my cancer came back. And that's when I had to have my right leg amputated above the knee. And I was just so pissed off. I was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you got to be kidding me!" Because I was 19 years old. I was like, "Come on, I'm in college." I felt like at the time like I had lived a life that I knew where I wanted to be. I knew what my career path was going to be, and it crushed me. And then to be told that I have to have my leg amputated, and that's part of my livelihood. I was like, what am I going to do? And we so obviously I'm pissed off, but then we start talking about some of the positives, and we're talking about running prosthetics and the advancements in microprocessor knees. And I remembered that there was a tap dancer who lost his leg in a cotton gin accident when he was 12 years old, and his name was Clayton Pegleg Bates, and he taught himself how to tap dance using a wooden peg leg. And he went on to travel all over the world as a one-legged tap dancer. And so I thought, okay, if Peg Leg Bates can do it, well, so can I. And so after that consultation with my doctor, I signed the paper and I was like, great, here we go. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have my leg amputated. And I did that in May of 2010. And then June, 1 month later, I started chemotherapy. So then I did chemo for 16 months in total. The cancer had spread to my lungs, and so I had two more additional surgeries to get tumors out of my lungs. And finally, it was just about 2 years from the start of my diagnosis until the very last drop of chemo that went into me, that I had re-taught myself how to tap dance. I got a peg leg from my prosthetist. I kind of looked at videos of peg leg baits, and I talked to my prosthetist about what he was doing and how we can change things up a little bit. And he just brought me out a pylon like in the back workshop.
Yep.
It's very simple, very basic. And the videos that you see today, it's that same style. Like it's the same thing, just that hollow pipe essentially. And I've just been rocking with that when it comes to tap dancing because it's so basic, it's so simple, and there's no gimmicks. So and I just tried to think of steps that I knew in my head, and muscle memory came back. And from being a drummer, I really treat the peg leg as its own instrument, and so that's like my bass drum, the peg leg. And then on my left foot, I have my snare drum on the toes, and I have my toms on the heel. So I'm just trying to create all different sounds, and I've incorporated, my body more into it now, and just playing with my band and creating new sounds and rhythms where I can with them. It's just taken on this whole life of its own.
So because you had that past of dancing, you get back into it. Now, how long would you say, how long was the time from you having your leg amputated to one, finding, videos of that guy and then be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do? Like, what was that time frame?
So this is actually crazy, is that I had seen videos of peg leg baits when I was 16 years old and I still had two legs.
So before.
Yeah. So my tap teacher was showing us all this old footage of all the great tap dancers. And, it was like Gregory Hines and Jimmy Slide and Sammy Davis Jr. and Savion Glover was on there. And then Peg Leg Bates comes on. And we're watching this like, oh, cool. Like this guy's just like laying it down with one leg and he's doing better than some guys with two legs.
Yeah.
So I saw that when I was 16. And then at 19, here I am like, wait a second, like, boom, the light bulb goes off. Like, had I not seen that footage when I was in high school, who knows? Yeah. Like, I don't know if I'd be here tap dancing today. I don't know. But it was just that instant, like, in that moment when they said, your leg is getting amputated, obviously I'm like, crap. Like, this is not going to be great. Like, what's going to happen to my life? Oh, wait a second. I got this. I got
this. Now, how high is your amputation?
What's that?
How high is your amputation?
So I'm above the knee. So I'm right above the knee. I got a pretty a long residual limb, and it took me. I got my first prosthetic leg. I had it amputated in May. I started chemo in June. I had my first prosthetic at the end of July, and my body weight just kept going all over. It just kept shifting because of the chemo. So like before my amputation, I weighed around like 170. During chemo, I was down to, I lost 20 pounds once my leg was amputated.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like when people were like, "Oh, how much does the leg weigh?" and I was like, "Oh, mine weighed 20 pounds."
20 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, like you don't realize it how much an actual leg weighs. So I dropped 20 pounds immediately. But then with the chemo, at one point I was down to 109 pounds. So
wow.
I was just like all over the place weight-wise. And I wasn't really fitting into my socket too well, but I was still just like super determined to walk again. And so I got into physical therapy within the month of receiving my prosthetic. So roughly August. And I was moving. And then by September, I was back in school. It was my first semester back since everything happened and I had to leave. And I was just walking around campus. I retaught myself how to drive. I drive stick shift cars. Like there was a guy on YouTube. You may have heard Heath Calhoun. Have you?
Yes. Heath Calhoun. Yeah, he's a veteran.
Yeah. Yes. So Heath. Well, so Heath is a bilateral amputee, and I saw videos of him driving stick shift cars with both of his prosthetics, and I said, "That's the leg that I need. I got to get that C leg." And I got the C leg. I went to my prosthetist, and then my prosthetist reached out to Heath, and Heath gave me a call and kind of helped me out with figuring out the settings that would work for me and my
Worked
specific
perfect.
goal. And then I just off of Heath's videos, I was driving stick again. So I was like, great. It's like riding a bike. Here we go. And
Yep.
then yeah, it was just like a cool. I feel like it was such a cool time to be an amputee. I was really crazy at that sound, and like even now too, it's like, all right, here we go. Like, oh, like all this technology is changing, and just going through with it. I'm like, all right, like I started out on this leg. Now, then I had a Genium X3 for a little bit,
Mhm.
and that was not civilian use at the time. Like that was
Yeah.
only veteran legs,
Yep.
and I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm gonna rock this X3 like out in public. Like I'll see how this goes. And now I have the X4, and I've been riding the X4 now since like October, and it's pretty cool. I definitely like my
Well,
X3.
well, I've got that's what, so I have the X3
Yeah.
and like I can get the X4, but I just had this one redone. So the other day when I was seeing my doctor, I was like, I was like, when can I get the X4? I was like, I mean, this X3 is fine. She's like, yeah, if you're fine. But what do you notice is the biggest difference between the X3? And for people that are listening, this is a leg with a microprocessor in it. They're really impressive what they do. But what's the difference between the 3 and the 4?
So the four took me about a month to get the settings straightened out, and I've never had that much downtime as an amputee, probably since I became an amputee, of just like figuring things out. So I had about a month of downtime of trying to figure out the settings between the X4 and what I used to have on the X3. And there's a couple different there's a few new settings on it with preflex, where I was never walking with preflex, and what was happening trying when I transferred over all my settings to the X4, because of my activity level and how fast I just naturally walk,
Mm-hmm.
the not having preflex on it was giving me a stutter in my step, and I was getting like a misstep. So my
Yeah.
knee would almost like buckle out, but it wouldn't go into swing phase, and so it wouldn't break all the way. It would
So
kind
it's
of,
like stutter.
yeah, and then I was
Yeah.
like tripping. And I was like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
I can't rock with this. It's not gonna happen. So we kind of were playing around with the settings. We changed the weight around. We were adjusting my weight, so like on the leg. And so a lot of
Mhm.
times you want to put roughly your body weight, maybe plus like 20 pounds or so, like if you're gonna carry stuff on your back or whatever. But you ever like carry anything and like your leg kind of skips a step?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'm glad that I'm missing my arm and leg on the same side because if I got to carry stuff, it's on my good side because the left leg does not know what to do. The
exactly.
prosthetic.
So it was just like that, where like that's what was happening to me when I wasn't carrying anything. So now we're like adjusting the weight, and we're like, well, what if we make the weight even more? Like I'm carrying something, and it really wasn't changing anything. And then what I kind of found is like, all right, if I come down like a little bit more flat-footed, like because sometimes I don't know if you do this too, but like sometimes like when I'm walking and I'm just kind of chilling, like I could get a little bit lazy, and I'm just like, yeah, like I just want to walk, like I just want to like
Yeah.
I, I'm not gonna do a perfect step every single time. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm gonna be on like a different level, and it just happens. So kind of found that like if I was being a little bit lazy and riding more of the heel, uh, it would misstep. So then I was like, well, we got to do something about it. So then they turned preflex on, and then it went away. So I had to learn how to walk with a slightly different gait, but it kind of worked itself out because I was like, all right,
It
like I
fixed the
got this.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it fixed the problem. And so that's its own thing. But then there's another feature on it that I like it and then I don't like it. It's like a hill assist, like ascend, where pretty much if you're going uphill, it'll take your knee and it'll bend it, and then it'll almost like press you up. Where like,
Really?
yeah, where like the hydraulics will just like whoop, like push you
Well,
up.
now, as you're saying that,
Yeah.
because I know that the X3, you know, if you swing it and pull it
Yeah.
out real fast, it'll do that so you can go
Yeah.
upstairs. Do you have to do anything to prep it, or it just picks up that you're going up?
It just knows. It just knows. Like, so that's what's cool about it.
Huh.
So like you still have to swing it out and do like that horse kick if you
Yeah,
want to step over step or like walk
that's
over
a good
step.
way to describe it. That horse
Yeah.
kick. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's
Yeah.
like.
Literally just like whack that thing out. But if you're walking up like a driveway or like a slight grade or even a steep grade, it'll like so I was like the best way to do is like it'll like kind of like
Yeah.
you up in this way. So
Okay.
I know, yeah, I like it, but then sometimes what happens is like I'll do something quickly, and it may be like getting in and out of the car fast, or uh, it just happens where sometimes then it doesn't it doesn't recognize that like no, I'm not going up a hill, I'm just getting out of a car, or I'm
Getting out.
getting
Yeah.
from a seated position. So it's
Do you
just like,
use the app?
rarely. Actually, I used the app today for the first time in like 5 months. But just because I was already sitting in my car and I was like, oh, let me get into driving mode without getting out. But I do the three hops. Like
Yeah. Set
yeah,
it.
I go poop poop poop, and then I'm into driving mode, and that's the main mode that I'm gonna go between is just
And so
walking.
for driving mode, it just is the right flex and it locks in.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like bends at an
And
angle.
sits right on the clutch. Oh, wait a
Um,
minute. It's your
yeah,
right leg.
yeah.
Is it your
So
right leg?
yes, so it sits on the gas pedal, and then I still drive with both legs, but
Yeah.
then my left foot does the clutch and the brake. And so
Okay.
if I have like any like oh shit moments where like I gotta, slam on the brakes,
Yeah.
like clutch neutral brake, like super fast, like bah, bah, bah.
Yeah. You're getting good at it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're tap dancing, you're driving, a manual transmission car. Um, so tell me about, okay, you sing, act. Like, have you been in stuff, or do you do more like theater?
Yeah, no,
Like, what's your,
yeah, so I do a little bit of everything. I try to do everything. That's the best way to keep working and, having a job is just
yeah, you're in the
yeah.
entertainment business.
Yeah, so like I'll do theatrical production, like musicals. I was just in Three Summers of Lincoln out in California at La Jolla Playhouse, so that was a fun show, world premiere, which I'm really excited about. I've done shows in New York City. I've done shows in a lot of theater in Pittsburgh. I know that you're down in Alabama. I've been to Alabama a bunch. I've been to Birmingham, such a cool city. I performed down there.
Performing down here. Like, I hate that I haven't seen that yet. Now,
Yeah,
next time you come through,
totally, totally. I gotta tell my friend who lives down there to put something together because we do some pretty cool shows. She is legally blind, and then we have another friend who is also legally blind, and then there's me with one leg, and we always put on these cool shows right in Birmingham, right downtown.
yeah. So, I mean, when you do, I mean, obviously you're doing a lot of amazing things and an advocate for people with disabilities, but when you do a regular show,
Yeah.
do you kind of like, you can just say it, like, do you kind of steal the show? I mean,
I-
do you end up being a big part of the show? Because I mean, you can't just bring a one-legged tap dancer out and people be like, "Oh yeah, he's in the back. I saw it."
so this show that I just did in California, we were like, okay, how are we gonna do this, with one leg? And I've been a part of the production now since November of 2023, and we start putting together this choreography and how I'm gonna be in it, and eventually they were just like, you should just open the show.
Yeah.
You should just come out and just walk in silence, because the show also deals with the Civil War, and so there were a lot of battlefield amputations happening.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just in the Civil War, and so there's a lot of different meaning behind being an amputee in that production, and
Yeah.
so the first is oh man, like this is a show about war, and so out comes an amputee, and people are like, oh, okay, what's
Yeah.
happening? And then my peg leg is so primitive in a way, like it's so low tech that it's also
Perfect.
yeah, it's like okay, like we're dealing with something that's basic, and so here he comes, and he's just coming on out with a peg leg, and then the tap dancing starts, and then it's like, whoa, what's happening now? And then
Yeah.
it's just explosion behind me, and then the rest of the show and music and orchestra and band, they all come in and people start singing. But another aspect of that particular show, which was really cool, was so the show talks about the show deals with Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation and the Civil War, and the telegraph was a very new piece of technology, and Abraham Lincoln was obsessed with it because he could communicate with his generals on the battlefield
Mhm.
and just have instant communication. And so the writers and the choreographers said, well, what if we use tap dance as a form of the sound of the tapping of the telegraph? And so there are some moments in the show where I'm actually tapping out Morse code through the telegraph and through my tap that's going from Abraham Lincoln to General McClellan on the battlefield.
No, I
And
gotta ask. Are you going off rhythm and sound, or did you learn Morse code?
so both.
I
There's
knew
both.
you did. I knew
Yeah.
what you were gonna say.
So, but it's interesting because the Morse code some of it had to be like stretched out a little bit just because of how Morse code sounds. And
Hmm.
so the opening of the show starts with what is it? It's summer, June 1862. This war has been raging on for 490 days. It's day 400 and no, I'm sorry. This war has been raging on for 430 days. Um, and so the tap to it was bataka ga bataka ga 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 shaka ga 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 da do da 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 apika da 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 gu ga. So that had to be translated into a 4/4 time signature and make some sense musically. But
Uh-huh.
if you listen to it on Morse code, it would really just be like how
Yeah.
like it's just
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
staccato in a way, and so
Yes.
yeah. So we had to stretch some of it sometimes. Antietam, the Battle of Antietam, Antietam in Morse code was what was it? That was a fun one. So Antietam, and then I would go like Antietam, but I would only do that. Nobody nobody else knew about that. So I'd be out there tapping in Antietam, and I would just throw on. But
Love it. Have you ever had anybody that was like that knew Morse code and said, "Hey, so I noticed."
someone,
Yeah.
I was asked the question like 4 or 5 times throughout the run, and someone said, "Are you tapping out Morse code?" And I was like, "I am. Yes, I am." And so I was like, "I knew it." I was like,
I knew it. All that studying of Morse code finally paid off. So, okay, so you're obviously popular. People know who you are. I'm telling you, like to be in an audience that didn't know you were going to do that when you were saying that, like that would have blown my mind. Well, real quick, what's the name of that show?
that show is called Three Summers of Lincoln.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that. Okay, all right. So it's been like what, 15 years since your amputation?
Yeah,
16?
actually, this May 21st is going to be 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of people have you? I know you've had people reach out to you that are
Yeah.
just been inspired, whether they're an amputee, a dancer,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Like share us some impactful moments you've had just because of your experience and what you're putting out there.
I think some of the coolest letters and drawings I've received, like some letters and drawings from different countries. Um, there was a drawing that that a little girl did from Colombia of me dancing, and she put like bongos in it too. I was like tap dancing and playing my bongos. I met people over in Egypt and in Istanbul that just wanted to chat about, you know, my loss of the leg and everything in
Yeah.
dancing, that were so interested. Um, Japan was they were very serious in Japan.
Yeah. That's
No,
what I've heard. I haven't been yet, but that's what I've heard.
it's very serious. But yeah, just I mean, going to Germany, um, it was so cool. I'll actually be back in Germany in September, working with a production called Parieté, and it's a whole festival for performers with disabilities, and they like that's the spot. Like that's the spot to go. It's so
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Well,
and
with that, with you saying that, that goes to my next question. Like, what kind of things do you do? Like, what groups do you work with that
yeah.
advocate and work with people with disabilities, especially amputees?
Yeah, I mean, there's a Sarcoma Foundation of America for sarcoma patients. There's Wiggle Your Toes for other amputees. They're based out of like the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. We worked with this one girl out in Scottsdale, Arizona, who lost her leg to a sarcoma cancer, and she wanted to tap dance again. And so we flew out and we surprised her with the help of Wiggle Your Toes, because the founder of Wiggle Your Toes lost she's a below the knee amputee. She lost it in a boating accident, and so we kind of got our heads together, got out to Scottsdale, Arizona. We surprised this girl at her dance studio, and we taught her how to tap dance again, which is so cool.
Oh. So
Yeah.
what is she doing now? How long's that been?
That was before COVID. I think that was in what, 2019, I believe, maybe 2018, around that time.
Do you know if she's still dancing? Yeah.
Still, yeah, yep, yeah, she's still dancing. Yeah,
Doesn't that feel good? I mean, you'll never know how many people you inspire, but when you hear those and you've gotten to be engaged with somebody and help them find their way, I mean, there's no better reward than that.
yeah. I mean, it's cool, and just to keep in touch with them and the family, and just see how see how she's progressing, and because now I think she's like 14 years. No, she may be older. She may be like 15 years old now, and so it's just cool, just like just watching this kid who had this dream, this goal, and the crazy thing too is when she wanted to learn how to tap dance again, she had a goal wall, and so she put all these different people on her goal wall as motivation, and she had me on the goal wall, which is
Yeah, I'm sure.
because we went to her house, and she's like, "Can you sign my goal wall?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll sign." And there it was. I was like, "Oh," so it
That's
was just
amazing.
cool.
Well, so you have an amazing attitude. You jump back into tap dancing. What do you struggle? What have you in the past, maybe not now, but it's been the hardest thing, the biggest struggle?
I think the biggest struggle that I deal with, especially in the world of the arts, is wanting to be seen as the person that I am. And when I know when producers and directors and casting directors are looking to cast a musical, they're looking for everyone to be somewhat uniform,
Hmm.
and that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
And I think I've struggled the most with that because it has not allowed me to work at the level in which I know I can work. And so I think social media is a great tool, but I mean, we don't always show the negatives on social media
Oh
sometimes.
yeah. No, that's why I asked. You're right. I even find it in my own personal life. Like there's a good and a bad. Like I don't want to always just be the amputee.
Right.
But then on the flip side, there's times that I've gotten things out of life that I would not have experienced if I wasn't the guy who's an amputee, but also doing whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
good and a bad. Because, yeah, nobody wants to always just feel isolated, even if it's a positive. You just want to be like everyone else.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And it's tough. It's tough sometimes. Just trying to just like trying to be yourself and getting out there every single day and being in an industry that's so cutthroat and so you won't get a job because of the way you look, because of the way
Yeah,
you sound, because you're missing a leg, because you're missing an arm.
yeah,
It is so cutthroat in that industry, and sometimes I just want to be like, all right, I'm out, you know, and sometimes I do take a break. Like
yeah,
I'm a big car guy, and so like every once in a while I take a break from the theater industry and I jump into the car industry.
yeah,
And I just like chill there for a little bit and I'm able to like recharge myself and like then boom get into the next like theatrical job where I feel like okay, like I'm in a great space now where I can be in this world again and I can also be the best possible, be my best possible self.
yes, yeah,
I like my 20s and early 30s, like as incredible of a time that they were of traveling around the world, it was also a difficult time of navigating what my career looks like and where I want
mhm,
my career to be, because you're always going to be putting yourself up against somebody else and saying, why didn't I get that job? And how come that person got it over me?
right,
And sometimes it's just fame and notoriety. Other times it was the look. Other times it was my leg,
yeah,
and get that. And I'm one of those. I'm that kind of person who I want to have that conversation on the other side of the table. It's like, tell me what you need from me, even with my disability. Like, how are we going to make this work? I'm
yeah,
fine to have that conversation. And sometimes they just didn't want to have it because they didn't know how to go about it because they're
yeah.
not comfortable with that language. And so it's just one of those like, hey, thanks for coming out and giving and showing us what you do. We don't know what to do with you,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So
Now, do
that
you feel like that is starting to change?
I
Do you
do.
feel like in the entertainment world? Because it's like, I remember the first time I saw it was a Swiffer commercial,
Mm.
and the girl had one hand, but they never acknowledged it.
Right.
And then there's a girl, a leg amputee that's up in Canada that was on it was a commercial for a mattress. And it showed her like skiing and stuff with one leg and then her on the mattress. But it never acknowledged that she's an amputee.
Right.
And a mattress has nothing to do
Yeah,
with being
nothing.
an amputee. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, like that. So, I mean, what kind of changes have you seen? Because you're
Yeah.
in the industry, you're right in it.
And that's the kind of thing that like I would love to do and not even have to talk about it. And it was cool. Like I want to play the parts where like I want to play like already existing parts that have been cast as two-legged actors
Mhm.
that then I come in and it's like, yeah, I could do this too, and we don't have to talk about my missing leg. I
And
could
I was
just
going
do
to ask you,
parts.
have you had a role yet where you wear your regular leg and pants?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then I've like I did Beauty and the Beast for 2 years and I played the Beast and I just rocked a peg leg the whole show as the Beast. And we didn't talk about it, but like during the fight scene with Gaston at the end, I was like, what if Gaston pulls me and just drags me across the stage by the leg, like by a peg leg?
Yeah.
And they were like, "Whoa, like that's pretty like ruthless." I'm like, "Yeah, like why wouldn't he do it?" Right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to kill the beast, why wouldn't he just take advantage of that and exploit the beast's, disability? I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say. And
Yeah.
they're like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, we like it. But you're cool with it?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's my idea. Let's do it." And every night he pulled my leg, and my suction game is on point. Every
I was going to ask.
he pulled my leg and the audience was like, "Oh," and like at that point, that's when the audience turned on Gaston. Because like from the show, in the movie, it's like people they kind of like Gaston in a weird way. He's kind of funny. He's like, do we like Gaston? Do we not? And it was a lot of first there were a lot of people in the audience who were seeing Beauty and the Beast for the first time. So they don't really know, is the Beast the bad guy? Do we like the Beast? Same thing
Yeah.
with Gaston. So that was the moment where people are, okay, we're definitely rooting for the Beast. And then there was another show that I did where I had these guys who were picking on me in the show. I just said, "What if you just took my leg off completely and started beating me with it?" And it was kind of a comedy too. And so
Yeah.
I was like, I just think like it would be pretty funny, and I have to do a quick change right after and get into a different leg, so it kind of helps me out.
Oh, he's already off. Yeah.
Yeah, it was already off. I'm like, great, like it's just to make my life easier. So they're like pulling, they're pulling my leg, like they have. I'm in like the other one's arms like this, and the other dude is pulling on my leg, and I'm trying to like keep it on, but I'm actually hitting my suction, like my valve,
Release. Yeah.
to release it, and I'm like, no, and then poof, the leg just comes off, and then of course the one guy does the Star Wars like Tusken Raider like over his head with the whole leg in socket, and then he
Yeah.
starts beating me with it. And the audience again, they love it, like they hate to love it in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you gotta just go with it. Sometimes you gotta be as like forward and like offensive as possible. And then
I
people
love that.
yeah.
So, you know what when you mentioned that, how doing Beauty and the Beast and never acknowledging that you had a peg leg,
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Like, that's what I would love to see more of in, the entertainment industry, is just not making a big deal out of it.
Right.
Of course, use it to your advantage if you can. Like, if someone can pull it and make it that much more extreme and the audience loves it, but to not acknowledge it just shows it actually, on the flip side, because what we watch, what we consume, gives us reality of what we believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until people start getting commonplace with seeing people with disabilities doing things that they're like, okay, well, it's not that big a deal. Because still to this day, and you'll know, it's like if we go to when we're in the airport, people look at us.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah. Do you take do you like do you take the wheelchair or like the easy access when you fly?
So, all right, I was so it was like 2 years ago. I've gone on these last couple of years. I've been doing a big mental health kick, and I realized for a long time, what gained a lot of my attention was actually not healthy for me mentally. I was in denial. Like, I didn't want to do anything with people with disabilities. Like, you know what I mean? I was just in denial.
Yeah.
And I was talking to some friends one day, and it was a group of them. I said, sometimes when I'm flying internationally, I go to the disabled line when I come through customs. And this girl goes, that's for you, right? And I was like, huh. Yeah, I guess it is. Now, because before when I do it, I would add an extra limp to try to look pathetic. Now I just go right through it. No one's ever questioned me.
Oh, I get questioned all the time. Even when I wear shorts. Well, it's because like I'll board like not usually through like TSA is TSA is not really a big issue. It's the pre-boarding for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I'm 34 now, and I started flying around more when I was in my early 20s as an amputee, and I would always board like pre-board when they made the announcement. Do we have any passengers with any disabilities? And then also active military can now board at this time, and so like I would be rolling up, and I wear shorts all the time, all the time.
Hey, when I go to the airport, I always wear shorts.
Yeah, that's the move. You gotta. And like I've had times at the gate where I've had like the gate check assistant, like the workers there, who would be like, no, we're just boarding, passengers with disabilities. I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
But come on. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, because I don't think to look at it.
No, yeah.
Yeah, like I think that like with me with prosthetics, kids will notice my leg.
Yeah.
But adults don't see it. They see my arm.
Right.
So I get how you walk up and you're healthy, you're young, you're fit, you know what I mean? And they're like, whoa, buddy.
Yeah. But whenever I travel, I'm like, I got to make this as easy as possible. I used to take wheelchairs in the beginning, but now they're doing this thing. I don't know if they're doing it at all airports, but when I fly out of Newark, it's so big. And so what they do now is you can check your bag before going through security, and then if you need a wheelchair, they put you into like this like wheelchair pen where basically you're just there, and then
Waiting.
yeah, I don't know. And then somebody will like come get you at the appropriate time, as opposed to like
Oh,
you
getting
get
in there.
just go through, and I gotta be like, no, no, no. So now, like after all the years of flying, I've finally gotten like a status where I can get free upgrades and I can kind of get first class pretty much for free now, which is nice. And I just basically upgrade to first class whenever someone books me a ticket. And then I go through the premiere, like first class TSA, and I just walk through. And usually somebody will notice my leg and be like, "Oh, sir," like, boop, and like open up like some
Yeah.
fast track way for me. And then with TSA, I'm always going through the X-ray machine. It's just,
Yeah.
hands up, a whole thing, swab me down. I set it off like 3 times or two, maybe 2 times in my life now, where like I had to go to another room and I had to take my leg off. Once in Egypt, they made me take my leg off. Once in Amsterdam, they made me take my leg off. Once in Newark, they made me take my leg off. It's just like, and like you can't do anything. I just feel like you gotta just like comply at that point, where it's
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
like here I am, like what am I gonna do? Like,
Well, I've had more than once because, we fly so much. I'm like you, if it's a newer TSA agent and they have
yeah,
to check me,
yeah.
like one time I straight up was telling the guy
Oh yeah.
where to swab, what to do.
Yep.
And then
Yeah,
today
Peter.
I flew in today from, where was I? I was in Tampa.
Yeah,
And when I went through, I even put my hand out,
yeah.
and then he came back. He was like, "Oh, I'm glad you did that. You're right. Let me go ahead and swab your hand." Like, I'm like, "Yeah, I know how this works." Here's another question. So you said, okay, well, one, I want to get to it about cars, but before we do that, so you're you're dancing, but sometimes you take a break. What are your goals? Like, what do you want to happen in the next 5, 10 years?
Oh, 100% just be on Broadway and just, hopefully the show that I just did moves. That would be super cool. And I just try to live a good life, really, and just try to, go out there and just be my best possible self every single day. Whether it's playing music, whether it's, tap dancing, singing, creating stuff, collaborating with friends, creating like different, YouTube vlogs and trying to, I just traveled across the country, which was awesome. And just, I saw so many places that I had wanted to see in my life and just created like movies about it. And
That's awesome.
I just try to get out there and just try to live the most adventurous life that I can.
And
I
you're in
mean,
New Jersey.
look,
You're in
great,
New Jersey,
living,
right?
what does it say? Living with no excuses. Like that's what we do.
Yeah.
No limitations.
And so you're in New Jersey, so that's
Yeah.
convenient because you can like anytime there's a role in Broadway, you're right there.
I can be there, yeah. I could be there in New York, totally. Do I
Yeah.
really like this state though? I don't know. I should say. I should.
Well, before we started recording, when I was asking you how to say your last name, we were talking about your
Yeah.
Italian family. My mother-in-law lives in Brooklyn Heights,
Okay, okay.
and she's Italian.
Yeah.
Of course, her family moved to Canada, and then
Okay.
she was dating somebody on Broadway. That's how she ended up in New York
Oh,
like 20 something years ago. And of course, it's funny. She'll start telling stories, and she's like, "Yeah, then we're at an after party at Elton John's house." And that I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" I was like,
yeah.
"You're at Elton John's house? Like, you don't just brush past that." Uh,
Right. Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's definitely tons of people out here in New Jersey and New York, but I mean, I'm thinking of going like maybe a little more south, maybe a little more west, and just kind of have like a little bit of a slower, you know,
yeah,
life, and then be able to get to New York when I have to.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
Here for 34 years, living in New Jersey and New York City, and I'm just kind of like, all right, I need a break. It's getting expensive to live out this way.
Yeah. And you go somewhere warmer.
Yeah, well, that was the thing is like I left New Jersey to go out to California January 1st, and I kind of missed all of winter. And then
Yeah.
back, and the weather never. I mean, I hit a little bit in like November and December, but New Jersey winters are kind of mild now
Hmm.
around that time. So it was still like in the 60s roughly. Every once in a day you get like a nice like warm day in winter out here. But I completely missed it. And coming back, it's just kind of I feel like I've just been in like this like perpetual like spring, summer, fall in a way. So it was definitely a treat to go out there. But I know my family's moving down to North Carolina, and
Oh,
I have a sister down there, and she just had a baby, and so that's my goddaughter, and so maybe I'll go and be a little bit closer to them. Still not sure, but I'm kind of on like that break moment right now where I'm figuring things out before who knows.
I feel like I could just keep talking. You have so many questions. Well, let me jump into this one real quick. There's so many things running through my head. Okay, you mentioned cars. What do you drive?
All right. Right now my off-road vehicle is a 2008 Porsche Cayenne that I have outfitted to I just beat the heck out of it going cross country and overlanding and rock crawling and going through sand dunes. That's like my everyday driver. Then I have a 2006 Subaru STI that's kind of like also kind of like a daily driver, but also just like a fun, like kind of weekend warrior track car. And
Yep.
then I have a 1988 Porsche 944 Turbo that's just definitely a weekend car that
Yeah.
is a fun one. But I've had so many cars in between. I used to road race, like track my 2016 Subaru. I built that with 730 horsepower, and that thing was a monster. Uh, it was just like I love cars. I grew up loving cars. Just
That's
always
a lot of horsepower in a little bitty car.
it is, and also having one leg. Like we so we tweaked the throttle response, and so I had two different modes, like just like a normal 730 horsepower mode, and then I had like an aggro 700 horsepower mode, where like at 50% of my leg pushing the throttle down, it was really the equivalent to 100%. So that thing would just
Oh
take
yeah.
off. Yeah, like I'd be like running with like Lamborghinis and Ferraris in that thing. It was wild.
That is, man, I
And then
love,
I
dang,
sold
that
it.
is so cool.
I was like, oh, this is so much power.
Yeah.
It was fun to drive, but it wasn't fun like for everyday driving. So it was like good on the track, and then I was like, all right, I went too far with this one.
All right. Before we wrap it up, there's one thing I want to do before I get to that. Your parents,
Yeah,
they still married?
yeah, yes, yes, yeah.
What was their reaction? How much support was your family when you lost your leg and then you're like, I want to tap dance with one leg like this guy?
They thought it was awesome. They were like, okay,
Yeah.
they knew, they said, okay, like if you put your mind to it, you're gonna do it, Evan. And they were 100% supportive. They believed in the same dream that I believed in and still do today. You know, having that dream of being on Broadway, they're still there in the wings, coming to all my shows wherever I
I
go.
love it.
I've been out to California multiple times. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I remember hearing this after I was injured that people, their success has a lot to do with how supportive their community and family are.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Because to have people, because it's easy to come up with ideas and be determined, and you're a very determined person, you'd have done it either way. But to have that added support of your family
Yeah.
that's like, we got you, we're here for you, we're supporting you, like that's a game changer.
Yeah, because I had some crazy ideas, let me tell you. It was just it was just one of those things that every time I had some idea that popped into my head, my parents would just say, "Yeah, sure. Sure,
Why
yeah,
not?
give it a shot. Why not?" And if it fails, then then you learn something and then you figure
You
out how to
know, as a parent, I've got four kids and I couldn't even imagine the fear that initially set in when you were diagnosed with cancer, because that
Yeah.
could go a completely different direction than an amputation. So
Mhm.
it makes sense that they're like, okay, yeah, look, our son is still here. Who cares about
Right.
the leg? And whatever
Right.
you want, yeah, we're supporting you 100%.
Yeah.
I'd tell if they're like, look, I just want to be a clown. I'm like, well, then I will go buy your first red nose. You know
There
what I
you
mean? Like, I will support
go.
that in any way you want it. Nothing against clowns.
Hey, let me tell you, I've worked for the circus before with one leg, and
Yeah.
those are some good paying gigs. So
Yeah.
let me tell you, they got
Well, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, and I don't want to upset the clown community. Like I'm not mocking them,
no,
just using it as an example.
no. I'm saying like if your son wants to be a clown, like that's a good career.
That's a good career. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you work, trust me. And those houses, circus, like the rings where we used to perform in the
Yeah.
tent, they were sold out every show.
Oh, I
Every
bet.
crazy.
You don't think about it. Like, yeah, when the circus comes, like it's always packed out when it
Every
comes to Birmingham.
yeah. Totally. Totally. That was a good gig.
That's awesome. All right, before we wrap this up, there's this thing I started doing and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'd come across these deck of cards
Mhm,
that has 3 levels to it.
mhm.
Level 1, which says it's an icebreaker. Level 2 is confessions. Level 3 is getting deep. And I'll tell you what, me and my producer, when I showed him the cards one night, we weren't recording. We just started going through them.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you what, it'll really bring you close to somebody because you
Mhm.
share a lot of things. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to draw just 3 random cards from each
Yeah.
one of these
Mm.
and do them. All
Okay.
right. So level 1, which is an icebreaker, is when was the last time you were really excited and what was it about?
Mm. Whew, the last time I was really excited and what was it about? Okay. Um, it was recent. It was definitely on this cross country road trip of being at the Grand Canyon in a
Mm.
very hidden spot that is not a tourist spot, and just being able to walk to the edge of the canyon and looking down and seeing the Colorado River and just seeing the world
Yeah.
of just how it was created, of millions and millions of years, and just like how these canyons formed and a river at the bottom, and just kind of witnessing that. I mean, that's a wonder of the world right
Yeah.
there.
Really put things in perspective. You feel
Yeah,
like it just, yeah. I
absolutely.
love that. That's a
Yeah.
great answer.
Yeah, it was just like I just this trip recently, it just changed my mind on so many things. And I was like, wow, like this is cool. Like this is yeah.
Yeah.
That could be a whole other podcast.
And I've been close to the Grand Canyon, but I've never been to it.
Yeah, you should check out the spot is called Toro Weep.
Toro Weep.
Yeah, Toro Weep. Toroweep. And it is like out there. Like we had to start out in Utah and then come down Arizona. And it's about like
Huh.
60, 70-mile drive from the start of the desert that then brings you out to the canyon. And it's unreal. Super cool.
Okay, next question.
Mhm.
And I think I know what you're going to say, but I may be wrong. If you could never work again, how would you spend your time? So let's imagine you've hit it big. You're a billionaire.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
do whatever you want. You don't have to work. What are you
All right.
gonna do?
All right. I'm gonna get myself a cabin on like a 100-acre plot of land in Montana.
I like that. That's not.
Yeah.
I
What?
love that answer.
Wait, I kind of want to know what you thought I was gonna say.
Okay, I thought you're gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna have cars, and I'm like, because then even when you said 100 acres, I was like, I'm gonna put a track on
Well,
my property.
yeah. I mean, that's just a given. It's
Okay,
a
yeah.
garage and yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Let's see. Oh, you know what? This is perfect. This is the last one, and it kind of coincides with the last question I have for you. So I'm gonna ask this, but before we get to the last one, we're going to share your Instagram. Do
Yeah,
you have what do you have coming? Like, okay, your Instagram is at Lord Pegleg.
yeah, that's me, Outlord.
Yes, which is an awesome name. First of all, it's cool. Do you have a website and what it?
I don't have a website. Everything else though for me is at Lord Pegleg. So YouTube is Lord
Gotcha.
Pegleg, Instagram is Lord Pegleg. Um, I don't really use TikTok, but every once in a while that I pop on there, it's also Lord Pegleg. Rarely I'll get on TikTok, and that's kind of it for me.
All right. So everything is Lord Pegleg. Um,
Hmm?
Last question out of the deck, and this is the last question I have for you.
Yep.
If you could remind everyone here of just one thing, what would it be?
Hmm. Yeah, remind everyone of one thing.
What if there was one thing you could put out there to people that are listening or watching this right now, what do you want it to be?
I would just say just wake up happy, live every single day, to your fullest, and try something new each day.
I love that. You have
Yeah.
such a great attitude. Like your whole
Thank,
demeanor is super, like you just seem like you can't not be happy around you. I can just tell
thank,
that. Like you bring a lot of energy, and I am truly honored that you came on this podcast because
thank you.
we just randomly reached out to you on social media and you could have brushed us off. I am so glad you didn't
Thank
because
you.
one, I'm glad I've come across you and your social media because it's amazing. And I actually connected with you through another dancer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing this. I was doing the show that I was in 3 summers, and I wasn't like checking my Instagram too much. And Kaylin Gray, had
Yep.
sent me a message and was like, "Hey, like I'm trying to connect you and Noah. Can I think they sent you a message." And then I saw that it went into like my message
Like
request
hit
hidden, the
something.
hidden
Yeah.
messages or something. So I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me check it out." And that's where, yeah, so that's where we connected. And I know I was like, all right, like I got to be on the road for like 2 weeks. It's gonna be like kind of like a desolate time. So like, let's meet up once I'm
Come
back
back. Yeah.
home.
I'm glad we did. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna reach out to her later and thank her
yeah, yeah.
again
I
for
will too.
connecting us.
I will too.
And and I come up to my mother-in-law lives up there. I come up there
Yeah,
all the time. I would love to connect with you in person.
absolutely. Please,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, I'm up
Because
for now.
this was an honor. You're amazing. You got so many, you're so creative. I can't wait to just keep following you on social media and see what all you're doing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that you're putting it out there on YouTube and everything because you're inspiring. Like I'm
Thank
not even a tap dancer, but when I saw it, like, there's a video, not to go on another tangent, but like I remember I came across a black and white video of a guy. His leg may be all the way up at the hip, but he would have his crutches and
Crip Hurd,
dance.
right? Crip, was it Crip Hurd that you're talking about?
It may be, it's something like that. Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
in black
yeah,
and white, and he would dance. And I remember
yeah,
watching that, being like, "That is incredible." Even though I
yeah,
don't want to do that, it feels good to see somebody doing something you didn't expect. Because then, for me, I'm like, okay, what else can I do that I thought I couldn't?
yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
So I love what you're doing, Evan.
Well,
And
thank you.
again, thank you.
Yes, yes, you're very welcome. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm super glad that we linked up and that we did this. This was a lot of fun. And I totally, wish you, the most success in life.
Oh,
Living
well, same to you, and I appreciate you saying that.